The White House spokesman, Sean Spicer, just trying to go back and forth with the media here about you present one storyline that doesn't jibe with the actual events line, even going back and forth on what Homeland Security knew about this freeze on those trying to get into this country that wasn't a freeze at all. In fact, it is a delay of 90 days to 120 days, depending on the country of origin and depending on the refugees we're talking about, whether they're from Syria or some of these other countries in question. But words, essentially, Mr. Spicer was saying, matter. To Shelby, Holliday, Connell, McShane on how this relationship is going. It doesn't look, Connell, well.
I think that's fair. Yeah, there's a little bit of, but you're right about these being feisty affairs that we get to watch on a daily basis as the back and forth between the White House press corps and the press secretary continues. A couple things. I mean, to the point about words mattering, I mean, you got caught in semantics there for a while, and there was an argument back and forth about things that probably don't matter much, but accuracy in reporting and/or statements, it comes into does matter to the extent that the media was reprimanded, and rightfully so, by the way, early on when the Martin Luther King bus story came out and was inaccurately reported, and Sean Spicer was all over them for that, and tried to do something not similar, but tried to reprimand the media today for the use of the word ban and travel ban. And probably if you're Sean Spicer, you'd want to make sure that your boss, the president, didn't send out a tweet yesterday using the word ban. So that type of thing kind of gets lost in it, and far more important matters to discuss, including the Supreme Court nominee tonight. It was interesting at the end, the Merrick Garland comparison did come up as well.
You know, that was a classic case where Republicans at the time wouldn't even grant President Obama's choice for the Supreme Court to fill Antonin Scalia's seat a hearing. Right. Now, at the time, Shelby, I believe Republicans were saying, well, we're just doing what Joe Biden did to George Bush and what he was advocating for an outgoing president, and when it was a good time to put someone on the high court or introduce a nominee. Back and forth, tit for tat. Man, I can't keep up with the childishness.
I know. Lots of finger pointing. It makes your head spin. Mitch McConnell the other day did say, and I think he makes a fair point, that other presidents, Democrat and Republican, have been able to get their Supreme Court justices confirmed in the first year of their presidency. That's a lot different than in your last year, 8th year of your presidency, for example. So he does make a good case. It'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. Sean Spicer in that press conference maybe gave us a few clues as to who Trump will pick. He said he believes this person will have bipartisan support. Perhaps that eliminates Judge William Pryor, who is seen as a very partisan pick. He did say, too, that this judge has conservative credentials and the right judicial philosophy. That could point to Neil Gorsuch of Denver, who is seen by many as very comparable to the late Justice Scalia in terms of his defense of religious liberties, his judicial humility. He doesn't think the Justice Department should step on the toes of the executive branch, the legislative branch. And he's also been fairly critical of executive overreach, which is something Democrats are very concerned about right now. So he could perhaps gain bipartisan support. As you know, though, the Democrats have not said anything about whether or not they would support any of these potential picks. So,
you know, I wonder, given that press conference, O'Connell, things were accelerating on the sell side here as this was ensuing, no doubt because traders said, well, this doesn't look too promising. No, and I'm wondering, when I hear like senators like the Democrat Jeff Markley of Oregon promising a fight, that this is a stolen seat, referring back to the Garland situation, will we use every lever in our power to stop this? Sight unseen. Don't even know who the person will be. Where are we going?
You also have a day, Neil, as you know, in which Democrats aren't even showing up for hearings that include the confirmation of the next Treasury Secretary, which obviously matters for markets. So just in the matter of timing, the odds of getting something like tax reform through the Congress are going to be extended if you don't even have a Treasury Secretary in place. And to be fair to the other side of it, the discussion out of the White House the last really few days, going back to Friday of the Mexico story, has surrounded topics that are, seen as being either protectionist, and in the case, in some people's view at least, of the immigration policies being maybe isolationist, so things that markets don't like as well. So you have gridlock, things being held up, and priorities that are, to put it that way, not necessarily what Wall Street wanted to focus on. They wanted to focus on growth, right?
Shelby, I don't see much olive branch activity going on here.
No, and it's also hard to see the olive branches extended between the Republican Party.
Yeah.
There is the rhetoric. We heard House Speaker Paul Ryan this morning back up Donald Trump, but beneath the surface, we don't know what they're getting done on tax reform. We're not sure if they're coming together when it comes to corporate taxes, for example. So there's a lot of unknowns. It's very easy to see why the market is off and investors are extremely confused.
You know, the worst punishment for me was a kid, when I was a kid, is to say, go to your room, no dinner.
Right.
Man.
Well,
I want them all to go to their rooms, no dinner.
No dinner.
No dinner. All right, we'll
Fair
have more.
enough.